This is the part I was mentioning throughout the show. Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano was here. You had a very interesting meeting. When was this, last night?
This was last night in Washington.
Now, I want to set this up. Remember now, all of the banks did not want this money. Some of the banks tried to reject the money. And you were with a leader of a bank who did just that.
Correct. This person runs a bank that's worth about $250 billion. It has no subprime loans. It has no bad debts. It wasn't involved in any of the credit default swaps. It didn't need any money. It didn't ask for the money, and it didn't want it. The FDIC, with Treasury backing,
Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which protects our deposits.
Officials from both the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation and the Treasury said, if you don't take this money, we will conduct a multi-year public audit of you.
Now, the head of this bank was like, we're fine with that. Our books are fine. But it was going to cost them.
Correct. It would cost them millions in employee time to give the government the documents it wanted. It would cost it terrible publicity. The terrible publicity would mean a loss of business. He begged the federal government to let him continue to run his successful bank successfully.
His private business.
Correct. He begged his board of directors to let him tell the feds to go take a hike. The board caved. The board was forced to issue a class of stock just for the federal government. The federal government owns 2% of this huge bank. As a result of that minority ownership, they now want to control salaries, they want to see his books, and they want to tell him who he can do business with.
And you say, on behalf of the Bush administration, this was
extortion. This occurred in September of 2008. Extortion is an attempt to control somebody else's free will by threatening to perform a lawful act. Is an audit lawful? Absolutely. Is the threat to engage in an audit in order to force them to sell stock to the federal government lawful? Of course not. It's a crime. That happened in September of 2008 under the Bush administration. In March of 2009 is when the Treasury said, we own 2%. We want to tell you how to run the place.
So what can happen now? Nothing.
Maybe the courts will say this is going too far. The Congress doesn't have the authority to authorize the FDIC and the Treasury to do this.
Tracy, you talk to these people all the time. What do they say?
Well, they've had it, and to the judge's point, they get money from the government. They got to pay interest, make interest payments as well. So the government's making money.
And the interest payments are high. I know from personal experience. My father happens to be on the loan board for a bank, and he's like, we didn't want that money. We didn't take that money. A very small bank. They didn't take it because they were worried about the 5% a year.
Exactly. And then you get a company like Wells Fargo now that's forced to cut its dividend because it has this TARP money. Didn't need to cut the dividend, so you're screwing shareholders left and right here.
The Bush administration committed extortion. That is a very strong accusation,
There
Judge.
is no exception in the extortion statute for when it's done by the government in the name of public safety. Threatening to perform a lawful act to affect somebody else's free will is extortion, and the Paulson people knew it.
And if the goal of the audit would have, if the reason for the audit had been, we're looking at your stuff and your stuff doesn't look right, we're going to audit you. But they were very clear. They were very clear. That wasn't it. It was, you will take our money, therefore we have control, or we will audit you and put you through a public display which could crush you during this turbulent time.
Correct. If the audit was, it's time to audit you, we have reason to believe you don't have enough reserves, they have every right under the law to do that, and they ought to do it. But the purpose of the audit was to coerce them, the bank, to sell the government something they didn't want to sell the government, which was a share of ownership in the bank.
It all feels so desperate that it's really frightening.
It is frightening, and I don't know where it ends. It seems like there's something new all the time with government control of human freedom.
And Tracy, at the same time, they're pointing us toward, look at these bonuses at AIG. And you talk about, I mean, you've said on this program prior to today that the attempt to force them to give back, to use their names in the public forum to give back money to which they were contractually, they were contractually obligated to give, was another crime.
It was a violation of the right to privacy. A federal statute that says what you earn is between you and the person who pays you and the IRS and nobody else.
Well, now they're giving it to Geithner. Now they're going to give Tim Geithner the ability to basically control everybody's salary, not just the top execs, the entire company, if you take TARP money.
That's new. That's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
It's the new thing for the day until a new day comes,
right,
and there's another new thing. All right, we're going to take this further. Thank you both. In just a second, we're going to talk about China. We are now led to believe, I can't confirm it, we're now led to believe, and the Pentagon says it's now very concerned about an aggressive new weapons technology, and it's not from North Korea. This is from China, apparently working on and may now have what they call a kill missile, a missile that in one strike can take out an aircraft carrier. Now think about this.